Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we will be yet again talking about this absolute monster blizzard that is going to be taking shape across the country for the next few days. It's going to be a really long-lasting system. I've been talking about this already for the past 3-4 videos, and this will continue well into the next weekend. So this thing is going to again drop a lot of snow across the west. It already has. I'll show you some of those snowfall totals. They are insane. It will be bringing widespread blizzard conditions across the northern plains, and then eventually into the northeast it could drop a lot of snow as well. And of course there's a severe weather, heavy rain, pretty much everything you associate with a large kind of multifaceted winter storm. This storm is going to have it. So let's start off by quickly, I do want to say, by the way, also, if you are watching this video, you could use a scroll bar to skip to your region just to see how your region will be impacted, because this video is going to be rather long. So obviously just skip to your region. It should be divided by region, so do that. But for the next few minutes, I want to quickly just kind of give you guys a brief overview. Look at all these watches and warnings that are currently issued. It's incredible. I mean, the amount of the whole state of North Dakota, a good chunk of Wyoming, Montana, almost all of South Dakota, a good chunk of Nebraska, bits of Colorado, a good portion of Minnesota, and even into Iowa, and eventually probably into Wisconsin. Those storm watches will be expanded. Notice a plethora of advisories and warnings out towards the west is also very incredible. And we do have a little current system across the northeast going on right now. Again, the storm that we're kind of referring to, the big beast, yesterday was a bit more noticeable on radar. Today it's kind of going through a little weakening phase as it drags through the mountains. And I want to show you some of these snowfall accumulations that have already occurred across the west with this, and they are nothing short of impressive. So look, right here, the Sierra Nevada, the highest amount is at 60 inches. Again, I said that this storm, I wouldn't be surprised if there's an amount that's being reported at 60 inches. I guarantee you that by the time all things are said and done, it may not even be reported, but there probably will be some amounts that are approaching 70, 75 inches of snow. So yes, an absolute incredible system for the kind of central Sierra, but even all along throughout this area, we've reported a very heavy snow. Notice into Washington as well, well into the 20s, the almost 2-foot range being met there several times. And across the northeast, we also have, with that little event, quite a bit of snow falling, and you could expect a little bit more with this big one, and that's to say the least. So yeah, let's start talking about the Northwest as we develop, get further into this video. So, good thing is with the Northwest, a lot of the activity is kind of wrapping up for you guys. Notice that through the next few days into the overnight hour of tonight and into Monday, there will be some snow across Oregon, Idaho, Montana, into Nevada, portions of Wyoming, Utah. It will be, though, scattered. Nothing really too impressive. There will be some, obviously, snow accumulations that are added on top of already what has fallen, especially towards the Bitterroots and into western Montana. But most of the northwestern portions of the kind of, the northwest region, but what I'm trying to say is that a lot of eastern Montana, eastern Wyoming, kind of the eastern areas of the Northwest, will be impacted mainly by the second phase of the system when it develops into a strong low pressure up into the plains with that Gulf of Mexico moisture. Notice that across Wyoming, we see that snow really heavy through much of Monday and into Tuesday, and then that continues, and you can see it's really stubborn, and across much of Wyoming, this continues across Tuesday and into Wednesday, even into Montana, developing by late Wednesday and into the overnight hours into Thursday, still hanging around. So this thing's going to be a long-lasting event for some areas across the Northwest here. Obviously, by the time really even Monday comes, Washington, Oregon, Northern California, Nevada, Idaho, right, by tomorrow during the day, you will be already seeing a lot of breaks, especially across Washington, Oregon, and by tomorrow night, this thing's pretty much out of here for you guys here. But again, further east, it's a different story. Let's take a look at some of these total snowfall accumulations. With the Northwest, we thankfully have relatively good agreements with the models. So, in other areas that, for my other viewers, the north central United States and northeast, there's still a lot of disagreement amongst the models. Thankfully, the Northwest, because it's so not far that out as the other regions, there's more agreement. Notice the higher elevations still could pick up easily 6 inches or more. And again, this model came out so this is additional snowfall as of 6 6:19 p.m. The 11th of December. If you're watching this video on Monday, the story's already kind of changed a bit. Notice Montana, Wyoming, obviously where the brunt of that snow is still going to be falling. There's pretty much no snow on the ground right there right now from this current system. So that's what the GFS shows. I'm going to quickly hop on over to show you what the European shows. Again, similar to the GFS, takes Washington, Oregon, Idaho out of the snow by really tomorrow late in the afternoon. But again, it's relatively slow moving for being a system that's initially came in with quite a bit of speed. It slows down for sure. Notice the Wyoming, Montana getting in on that snow as the system develops. And according to the European, that snow will only abate by pretty much Thursday from these areas. So yes, a very long-lasting storm, not to mention the rest of the United States that's going to be impacted for at least another few days with this system as it finally starts to pick up a little bit of speed, but still relatively a slow-moving storm. In terms of the total snowfall that comes from this system across, again, the Northwest, as that's a region we're kind of focused on right here, you could see the European shows a bit more, and it's a bit more broad. This is the Kuchera, so it assumes the proper snow ratio at because basically and essentially what the Kuchera and the whole 10-to-1 ratio thing is, this assumes a 1 to 10 inch ratio. So 1 inch of rain equals 10 inches of snow. And you can see it's a lot lower. But because it will be colder here, the snow will be fluffier. The flakes won't be as compacted. So the same amount of precipitation will result in snow piling higher. So you can see up to 20 even inches, maybe even 30 inches across portions of southeastern Montana and portions of Wyoming. So that's the difference here. But you can see again, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, the amounts are a lot less substantial as the system kind of already is dumped a lot of its snow already, and even the amounts that are going to be left here aren't that really significant. So that's the Northwest. But let me quickly now start jumping down towards the Southwestern United States, as this is another area that still has a little bit ways to go, a little bit more than maybe the Northwest, at least the eastern portion, western portions of the Northwest. So notice right now we do have that system still centered across California into portions of Utah. It is going to strengthen, strengthen. It's going to pick up in intensity, the snow across areas like Arizona, Utah, even Nevada still picking up some snow. California mainly done again by tomorrow. I would say just some little amounts of snow going to be falling across certain areas, nothing too incredible. And do note that into New Mexico, this spills into Colorado, though again, it's going to be weakening here as that low pressure starts phasing into a different storm across the Central Plains. So again, not a massive event for these areas. Still, though, some decent snow for you can see northern Colorado and Arizona and New Mexico. So there still will be some decent accumulations. And by the time this thing moves out of Colorado, it will be midday Thursday. So definitely a little bit of time there. But total accumulated snowfall, you can see, still pretty significant. Not an extreme system like what other areas of the United States will be picking up, especially for Arizona. Still probably one of the bigger ones of the year, though definitely not something that is going to break records. In terms of total accumulated precip, so this includes rainfall as well for the lower elevations. You can see it's mainly centered across the higher elevations as the winds that are coming from the south and west hit against the mountains that help them squeeze out the extra moisture, and that falls mainly in the form of snow. So that is the precipitation outlook from the GFS. Let's take a look at the European model. Again, thankfully, according to this model, again, the Southwest is a region that is pretty well agreed upon. Notice similar amounts of snow for the European that it shows, a bit higher across Colorado and Utah, again, because it has that Kuchera. And on here, it's just assuming the 10-to-1 ratio, the snowfall that I showed you. You can see assuming 10-to-1 liquid ratio. So that is that. You can see the amounts are pretty similar. And in terms of timing from the European, it's also relatively similar. You can see that the last remnants moving out of Colorado by Thursday, maybe a bit quicker of an exit from the European model. Regardless, much of, and again, that's just from Colorado, as much of the region will be pretty much done by early Tuesday, Southwest. And that's a completely different story compared to what the North Central United States will be seeing. You guys won't be done by Tuesday. You guys, that's when it will start really picking up in intensity. So the next few, I guess, 12-hour periods, they're still, dry. You can see 24 hours ahead, nothing really notable going on. However, we have a strong southerly wind, and with that low pressure coming in, a lot of moisture getting picked up. It's only a matter of time before this thing blows up, and indeed it does. Notice that by early Tuesday morning, you can see this is 12 a.m., this is 6 a.m. We start seeing a rapid development of showers and storms, and of course heavy snow on the backside of this. And you can see that this thing will quickly start picking up in intensity, that snow being very heavy. Slow moving low pressure kind of meanders around, very heavy intensity snowfall for a good portion of central South Dakota, eventually spilling into North Dakota. Again, the exact low pressure track will determine where that rain snow line falls, but the models are pretty consistent. So if you're in the rain on this graph, then most likely your amounts will be cut significantly compared to what potentially right there, Aberdeen, South Dakota, maybe Rapid City picking up quite a bit. So it looks as if there'd be kind of a interesting enough kind of little snow hole here. You can see right there across the border of Wyoming and South Dakota, but North Dakota picking up a lot. Again, the wind's really being strong. And look at this cold front. Initially starting off as obviously rain for these areas, but because of the low pressure and how it moves, it doesn't move along with that cold front, right? So this cold front eventually kind of keeps moving while the low pressure stays stationary. So we see a lot of this rain initially start converting into snow across Wisconsin, areas that have more cooler air. And then this low pressure, you can see instead of moving towards the north, starts just gliding towards the east, pretty much, and that includes or adds additional showers of snow. You can see right there, little periods. You can see some of that will be actually pretty heavy across maybe the Twin Cities, into Michigan, and other reinforcing kind of a shot of moisture. So again, several kind of, I guess, loads of moisture will be put in here. It's a lot more long duration as opposed to if this system were just to go towards the north. Instead, you can see it kind of takes a track like this. It does a little loop, and that prolongs the event in terms of snow, rain, and pretty much all the impacts. And then it spends a few days, Friday, Saturday, just meandering across really a good portion of Wisconsin, Michigan. Strong winds from the north and west, so showery weather will be initiated in the form of snow, and that includes areas that even pick up initially rain. So in terms of the total snowfall, obviously some of these amounts will be legendary, and this is assuming a 10-to-1 ratio. A lot of this, especially across North Dakota, will be falling at a higher ratio, so you could expect amounts easily into the 1.5 foot, maybe into 2 foot amounts. National Weather Service is saying that there could be some widespread amounts of over 2 feet, wind gusts 60, 70 miles per hour, classic blizzard across the plains. And you can see those snow showers on the backside could actually provide a little bit of snow into Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin, southern Wisconsin. And again, exactly where this, you can see that little rain snow line here. That sets up, a little bit further south, a little bit further north, is still a little bit questionable, and you'll just have to be keeping an eye towards the National Weather Service and whether or not they issue watches. You can see right now they don't have anything up here because it's still a little bit uncertain. I wanted to click on the Green Bay office, but if you look at, Green Bay here, let's just click on a random location just outside of Green Bay. You can see a little bit of wintry mix, but then eventually you can see snow likely transitions more into a snow event, so there definitely will be some accumulations here. And I do believe they could be pretty significant. The European, again, very similar. You can see it explodes this system in intensity, right? So the early stages are going to be late Monday night to Tuesday morning. Tuesday, it's probably peaking in intensity. Tuesday night into Wednesday, still raging, especially starting to snow now across northern Minnesota, northern Wisconsin. Putting down a bit maybe in terms of intensity across the Dakotas, but still the wind, snow still will be falling, so still be piling on, just maybe not at the intensity seen during the day on Tuesday. And then you can see the European shows us very well. It seems like it kind of breaks off from the main area of the cold front towards the south, but you can see there's a reinforcing shot of precipitation that comes in on Thursday, and this could continue for a lot longer than, again, it typically would if this system were just to move out of here. It's a slow-moving beast, and you can see that regurgitates, if you will, a lot of snow back into Wisconsin, into the UP, into the Arrowhead of Minnesota, into even southern Canada, right? So that's going to be also something we'll have to watch for. And then it completely just stops moving. This low pressure just provides very strong winds, and again, that kind of induces some showery weather and introduces a lot of cold air. So according to the European, by the time all is set and done, some of these snowfall amounts are going to be nothing short of very, very impressive, especially across the Dakotas, but even across the Arrowhead of Minnesota, where we see some lake enhancement, 2 feet of snow plus is possible. Twin Cities, especially if you do see some of that regurgitation, if you will, occurring, and those snow showers could occur for a few days afterwards, at a pretty decent clip. We could see some amounts 4 or 5 inches. Northern Wisconsin, I would say probably several inches at least for these areas. 6 to 10 is my guess for now. And in Dakotas here, 18 to 24, maybe even 24 to 30 across the highest amounts, or the localized areas where we have some heavy banding. You can see they show 33 inches. That's definitely not out not out of the question. The National Weather Service is mentioning that those amounts could be possible, and with such strong winds and such heavy snowfall, you could expect drifts to be several feet, 5, 6, 7, 8 feet, which could really, be pretty damaging, especially if it lines up against someone's house and whatnot, and they're stuck in it. So, yes, if you live across these areas, this is a serious storm. It only happens maybe once or twice a year, and and that's honestly assuming that the system doesn't do the worst scenario that some of the models are showing, because like what the European is showing could really result in a system that doesn't occur, maybe every 2 to 4 years. So that is definitely an incredible storm. And yeah, so the models are consistent on the north central United States, seeing that ridiculous snow. There's just a few areas, again, of differences here. Where exactly this sets up, if you look at the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, you have warnings towards or watches towards the north, but in the actual city itself there aren't. Doesn't mean you guys won't see snow. It's just initially you'll see more of a rain, but then you can see Thursday night there will be some snow, and that could really pile on day after day. Some again, several inches. So that is something we'll have to watch for. We could start looking at some of the high resolution models that go out to 84 hours. So they're supposed to be more accurate as they're short range. So again, Monday's still a relatively fine day. We do start seeing some activity towards late in the day across the Dakotas, and then we see the explosion into Tuesday. Tuesday it's peak in intensity. Late into Wednesday also very strong, and you can see exactly how this, look at that. It could be a very big icing event here, so it's definitely going to be tricky. It's going to be a tricky forecast, and if this is just a little bit colder scenario, just a little bit warmer, it could make all the difference. And you can see that resurging precipitation mass could regurgitate into that cold air and provide a lot more additional snow accumulations than what some of the what some of the official amounts are calling for right now. You can see the Canadian shows this pretty well. Just this, again, this isn't just light snow showers. Some of that could be pretty strong winds on the backside of this, or it's pretty strong snowfall rates. And yeah, this system kind of collapses in on itself. So definitely an interesting scenario we'll have to watch for. All right, moving on now towards the south central United States. This is an area that won't really be seeing snow, so that makes it a bit easier. There's not the rain or the precipitation type battle, but there is going to be a severe weather concern. And you can see that for the next few days, next few, I guess, hours, because literally by tomorrow late in the evening, this system starts exploding across Oklahoma, Kansas, with very strong winds, strong rain, or heavy rain. And again, the severe weather threat on Monday may not be too bad, but on Tuesday it develops. And you can see that the Storm Prediction Center is officially calling for a marginal on Monday, which is, it could be issued a slight risk tomorrow. But again, even if it is, it's not going to be the most, you can see, I mean, honestly, for a storm this size, it's not even that big of a severe weather risk. Tuesday is a much different story. I wouldn't be surprised if they issue an enhanced or a moderate even. And you can see that the slight, the enhanced, and marginal is across a pretty large area, some pretty large cities included in here, so large population metro. And again, so this is Tuesday, and you can see what they're really concerned about is right here, that little event where you can see that bright colorations. So this would be late Tuesday into Wednesday. Southern Missouri, again, Arkansas, northern Louisiana is where that threat is going to be the worst for tornadoes, hail, damaging winds. And you can see, thankfully, it does move away relatively quickly, but you can see into Tennessee, Mississippi, maybe not as widespread as severe weather, but definitely nothing short of at least strong thunderstorms pushing through your area on early Wednesday morning. And you can see it kind of slows down here as that system doesn't move towards the north, and we start seeing that's a relatively slow moving system, a cold front with very heavy rainfall rates. So that obviously means that some of these precipitation amounts will be just really high, and the global models don't do a good job with forecasting little streaks, because thunderstorms are very isolated typically in nature, and one neighborhood could get absolutely slammed, other one doesn't. So when they're showing widespread pockets of 4 or 5 inches, you could expect that there will be localized amounts in the 6-7 inch range, which obviously causes flooding concerns. But again, mainly with this thing, it's not even a flooding concern, it's just the strength of these thunderstorms could be very nasty. And even a regular thunderstorm is dangerous with lightning and whatnot. These could be severe, meaning winds greater than 58 miles per hour, hail larger than an inch in diameter, and some tornadoes. And I do believe that, again, there could be a widespread severe weather outbreak. So definitely that's the most concerning here with the southeastern United States. If you look at the European model, it shows a very similar scenario. Let's take a glance at it. So at least that's good. The kind of confidence in this is pretty good. It's not just kind of oh, there might be, there may not be. So at least that's good, right? Notice again, Monday, not that big of a severe weather day as this system kind of picks up strength. So through Oklahoma, northern Texas, you will see some strong storms. There could be some severe ones. Not widespread, though, but as it pushes into especially, again, Arkansas, South or Eastern Texas, and northern Louisiana. Right here is where that threat really starts becoming more concerning, and as this goes into the overnight hours into Wednesday, pushing into Mississippi, Tennessee, and eventually Alabama, becomes again more of a concern there. And you can see a slow-moving cold front. It's not going to be quick. So again, just like the GFS, the European shows a lot of precipitation amounts that are going to be pretty substantial. Again, it shows pockets 4 or 5 inches. You could expect that realistically, maybe 6, 7, 8 inches in some areas, not out of the question. So that is definitely a concern, to say the least. Let's move on towards the northeastern United States. This is another area that is not as simple, if you will, as the kind of south central United States. That one isn't either, because forecasting individual thunderstorms is bad, but this one is probably even more tricky than the north central United States, because not only the rain snow lines are chaotic, but really the development of a secondary low pressure skews and messes things up. So for the next few days, you can see that little system that's producing snow across the northeast right now. And again, I call it little, but there's some pretty good snowfall rates going on here, and there's some amounts reaching 6 inches plus already. So the system kind of actually became a little bit of an overperformer. And you can see that some of the, again, snowfall amounts here are already, pretty significant. 3-4 inches across areas that still have a few hours of snow left, and this was reported at 5:52. So, yeah, some widespread 6 inches amounts there. But yeah, that snow with the help of that cold air from the north, because there's going to be a system that kind of regurgitates. You can see 510. That's some pretty chilly air right there. 510 millibars or 510 line. That's indicating some well below normal temperatures, and you can see right there. There's blue colorations. And as I put this back, all of that precipitation is going to be colliding into that warm air, so a lot of icing at first, but you can see what the GFS does, which again, the models have been kind of going back and forth on this, starts developing a secondary low pressure. What seems likely is that much of Pennsylvania and southern New York will be seeing heavy snow regardless, because this will be strong enough with just the remaining precip from this cold front to push in here. But whether or not we see a secondary low pressure develop and get stronger is a bigger concern. You can see that by Friday and into Saturday, right? So again, the timing is, you can see Thursday, late Thursday. This is now at this point 6 p.m. This is now 12 a.m. Friday, 6 a.m., 12 p.m. Friday. This thing, a lot of areas could start off as snow and then eventually convert into rainfall as this system, depending on its exact track. Again, this is still a little bit far out, 132 hours. This system, again, this is what makes it so incredibly hard to forecast for the entire United States, because some areas like the Northwest are done with this, but the Northeast, some areas will only get started to get impacted by this in the next, by next Saturday, we'll be only moving into the Northeast. So really just an incredible slow-moving system, complicating things. And you can see that GFS definitely develops a system out of this, but it's not really uniform, and it kind of takes a cut through the Northeast. So it's not the most optimal for the coastal areas to see snow, but you can see that some areas will inevitably still pick up some snow. Looking back at its previous model runs, the GFS, you can see it has some inconsistencies, though generally all showing very heavy snow no matter what model you look at. But you can see some are more coastal runs, some are a bit further away from the coast. European, I would say, is a bit more accurate, has a bit more, better handle on it. Still doesn't mean that what it shows is accurate, as it has been changing as well, unfortunately, quite a bit more than, we would like. But again, still a little bit far out for the Northeast, to say the least. And you can see that by Thursday, again, this is what the situation European shows, a lot of ice, a little bit more than what the GFS shows for Pennsylvania into Ohio, Virginia, West Virginia, mainly in a form of rainfall. And as you push this into Maryland, Delaware, rain for you guys. Maybe a bit of ice at first. You can see extending into northern portions of Virginia, converting into rain as that warm air pushes over. But, southern New York, that cold air is more stubborn, and you can see the European does show that snow-ice mix. It's going to be a mess, but it does show that system develop and strengthen. And again, whether or not it takes a track further off coast or inland determines a lot of the snowfall accumulations and whatnot. And the icing with this could also be pretty significant, which also increases the threat for concern. So looking at the total snowfall, right, it's obviously there's going to be areas that pick up quite a bit. The GFS, European shows that. Pennsylvania, New York, there definitely will be some amounts that are a foot plus. But if you look at the total freezing rain, which is kind of the measure of, the ice. There could be, again, the first area across Minnesota, Wisconsin, even a few tenths of an inch, but then that second area right here, more concerningly, some of this, I don't think there will be an inch, but, yeah, it's definitely, you can't discount that, because the scenario for this is perfect. There's cold air, warm air overriding. There could be a pretty nasty event here. We'll have to watch for it. Definitely becoming a growing concern here, some of that ice. So that is that. The Northeast, again, there's going to be a lot more details coming in for the next few days, so we'll have to talk about that. Let's go on to our last region, the southeastern United States, as this is the area that is, I would say, relatively not as complicated, as it's not going to be rain snow mixture, but there will be still some forecast differences for the next few days. Again, some showery weather that's pulling away, then a little bit of dry weather on Tuesday and into early Wednesday, but by Wednesday midday we see that very powerful cold front pushing into central Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, into Georgia, and you can see that the intensity of the storms are going to be dwindling. They're maybe not going to be as severe, but they're going to be strong, with at least pockets of very heavy rain. Again, Virginia, northern Virginia, extreme western, northern West Virginia could be seeing that ice threat. You could see the European not. The European showed a lot more compared to what the GFS is showing in terms of that ice, so that's definitely something, that already is an inconsistency. But you can see that heavy rain events again occurring, and eventually it does push off. But again, most notable will be the cold air that's left behind us. Look at that cold air across the south, and then that sets up a stage for potentially more systems that could even be some southern gliders, meaning could bring some snow. Look at that right after that. So while this one's going to be all snow or all rain for you guys mainly, other than extreme northern Virginia could get some ice here according to the GFS. It could be a bit more widespread depending on the GFS European. But predominantly, mainly rain event, pretty good heavy rain event, and it's going to be a pretty significant one. The European shows very similar amounts of rainfall, similar timing as well. So let's take this out through. Let's just show you this again. There's that cold front, and it's not quick moving. You can see it kind of slows down. There it is initially, starts redeveloping, and eventually pushes out. It's gonna with a lot of resistance though, and the total accumulated rainfall is definitely going to represent that with some very, very significant accumulations in terms of rain across these areas, centered especially across Mississippi, Alabama, and southern Louisiana. So that is that. I do also want to show you a general just overview now, what's kind of going to follow this big system. It's, relatively far out because of how long this system's going to track for. It's going to be, occurring across many areas for many days, but once this thing's all said and done, and I mean, just look at this thing, incredible storm, just really, it's going to berate the United States and southeastern Canada, and that's the other thing I've kind of forgot to talk about. There's a lot of things I had to cover, but southeastern Canada, you will be potentially picking up a lot of snow with a scenario like the European model. So, Toronto, Quebec, Ottawa, you could be picking up a lot of snow, especially if the system is more of a kind of not a coastal storm, but more inland. That could result in some very heavy accumulations. But notice that following this, the cold air sweeps in and takes charge, and we see very, very cold temperatures. And again, some models like the GFS and its respective family show some pretty large systems, potentially in the long range. Even the European models do as well. So again, there's that system, the remnants of it pulling out, and then look at that, a lobe of very cold air moves in. I'll show you in just a second the anomaly, but look, there's some snow occurring again. It's not across the plains. I mean, there could be snow across the plains, but the rain snow line much further towards the south, and much more of an event that could be, bringing snow to areas that haven't seen it yet. And you can see right there, maybe some snow really, really far down towards the south and east with that cold air. And just to show you some of these 2-meter temperature anomalies, which help you visualize where it's above and below average. Out ahead of this system, it will be warmer. You better believe that. But behind this thing, there will be a really cool blast of air. You can see pretty substantial, especially across the areas that got that snow. But then there could be one that's a reinforcing shot right there that brings some very chilly air down towards the south. And, this brings freezing temperatures all the way pretty much down to the Gulf states. And Oklahoma, Arkansas, areas that will be seeing severe weather will be in potentially even negative Fahrenheit. So, yeah, quite a big turnaround. And, again, more activity, more storms, it seems, in the long range. So that's basically it. I kind of just wanted to talk about that. Hopefully you guys got a better look at what your area could be experiencing. Again, it seems like the Northwest, you're mainly done, especially Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming. The eastern areas will be picking up quite a bit more snow. Colorado, and that will kind of end off on Friday for you guys across Wyoming and Montana, eastern areas. California, you're mainly done by the time tomorrow morning rolls around. It's mainly over. Nevada, a few more hours again into tomorrow. Utah, still kind of it's going on right now, the worst of it. But by tomorrow, at this time frame, 6 p.m., it should be mainly wrapping up across Arizona, Utah. Colorado, New Mexico, you're going to be in this into pretty much Tuesday. And in the plains is really where this event takes off. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, as it, again, kind of meanders and spreads out. And then a very heavy rain event potentially across these areas as well. The south central United States, severe weather on Tuesday and Wednesday. Southeast, that very heavy rain into Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and eventually even Friday. And then that northeast threat of that snowstorm potential / ice storm is into kind of Friday and Saturday. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of talking to do about this system. But for now, that's it. Hopefully you guys found this video useful. And I'll catch you all on the next episode. See ya. Bye.